Good morning. Speaking of spirits crew, we are here today. I've got Gina and Tim with me. I'm Colleen I go by SOS on the Nightmare Road show. But we're here today to talk about a really phenomenal experience that Gina had with my horse. And it blew me out of the water. Um and it Yeah. So I don't even know where to start. Should I just start with when he couldn't walk, the Reiki experience, Gina? Where do you want me to
You
start?
should you should start with who the horse was to you.
Okay. Well, all right. So Zephyr was my Percheron. He was if you don't know what Percherons are, they're draft horses. They were from Percherons, France originally, and they were at the time the largest horses that could carry the knights in battle. And the reason why they had to use them is because all of the armor that the knights wore and all of the armor that they put on the horse was so significantly heavy that they had to use like a block and tackle system to winch the knight up with all of his armor, and they'd lead the horse underneath him, and then they'd set him down on the saddle because they couldn't even climb up with all the armor. It was so heavy. So the horses were incredibly big, and Zephyr was I weighed him in Texas once, just for yucks. Well, I weighed him a couple of times. When he was 2, he was 1,900 pounds. And yeah, because I put him on a truck scale in California, because when the Navy would give you so much, when I was in the Navy, they give you so much money to move when you get a PCS, a permanent change of station. So orders to go to a new duty station, right? And Zephyr was small or young. And so I put him on a truck scale, because what they do is they give you, if you're an E4, E5, whatever rank you are, they give you so much money to move all of the crap that you've accumulated, right? So, because they figure the higher in rank you get, the more crap you accumulate. So basically, the service always moved my horses for me. So, um, I knew how much Zephyr weighed. And then in Texas, I weighed him again, and this horse was 2,501 pounds at that point. He was a massive boy. He was 19 hands. Each hand represents 4 inches from the ground to the top of where the shoulder meets the back. It's called the wither, and you see that thing on the horse. It's a little bump, and that's where the saddle kind of sits. And yeah, so Zephyr was I don't know, it was crazy. I'm not going to get into how I came about getting him, because that's part of Gina's story, because she didn't know any of this information. But we were bonded in a way that I've never bonded with another horse, even though I would always like, Zephyr, run to the light, because he was extremely destructive. Not because he was mean or ornery, because he was massive. I had
I
to
know how that
rebuild
feels.
my barn. Huh?
I know how that feels.
I I had to rebuild my barn, literally rebuild it, because he was so big that when he'd lean on a post, like a column for the support structure of the barn, he snapped it in half. And I mean, it was just massive. There wasn't a fence in the world that could contain him. So I used hot wire, electric wire, right, that you use around livestock fences. I had to use one that it's a 22-mile fence, hot wire, so it's pretty potent on a 2-acre pasture, because it would give him enough of a shock, and trust me, it would blow snot out of your nose when you hit it. I mean, you would hit that thing and just like, what? I mean, just fluid came out of your nose. It was crazy hot, because that's the only thing I could keep him in with. So, um, earlier this year, he was 21 years old, and draft horses this size live between 17 and 22 is their time frame that they're given. If they're healthy, that's about the average of these big horses. They don't live long. Now, donkeys and what they call light horses, quarter horses and Arabians and such, they can live to be almost 40. And sometimes donkeys can live into their 40s, but because they're not big, right? So their hearts don't have to pump as much blood. So Zephyr, being a big boy, I knew his time was probably, we're in the window. I call it the death zone, like they do when you're climbing Everest. You just can't, you're in the death zone. And so the chances are pretty likely that at some point soon you're going to go. And I knew it was there. I knew he was in that targeted area, but he was healthy. He was bucking and running and snorting and having a good time. And then I want to say it was August. It was August because we had that barbecue for our paranormal class. He had developed an abscess in a hoof. And they get these abscesses occasionally, but with a horse this big, not being able to put equal amount of weights on all four legs is bad. And with any horse, it's bad, but with a horse particularly this size, it's bad. So I was soaking his hoof in Epsom salt and iodine. That's the traditional thing you do to soak. You soak the hoof to try to draw the abscess out. And it was working. It was working pretty good for a while. We got one abscess to drain, and then he started walking again. And then it was September, like when we went to the Phenomicon, and he was hobbling. He developed another abscess, and I could not get this one to come out. And he was no longer tolerating soaking his hoof for hours a day. He was done. And Gina, that's kind of where you start coming in.
Yeah, so I was born with my gifts. I'm a psychic medium and a healer, and I've done energy healing my whole life and have studied Reiki. It's basically the same thing, just a little different origin. And earlier in the year, one of Colleen's dogs had gotten hit, and I'd been sending Reiki, helping her to heal, and her other dog that's older with his arthritis. And he actually ended up going off his medicine. The other one healed so quickly, it was ridiculous. And some other people that Colleen lived with, one of their dogs had gotten hurt. And so we'd had amazing success and this was remote. This is where I'm at my place or wherever I am, and I just focus the energy for healing, pain relief, whatever they need, to them directly. And I do it every single day. I do it with people, I do it with animals. And there were some other animals that I had been working with. And Zephyr kind of perked up. I think maybe that was when you got the first abscesses and stuff to drain. And then he stopped. And so when I get ready to send remote healing, I kind of go like a little bit of a meditative state. And I just had said, Zephyr, Z, why aren't you taking this energy? Why aren't you letting this help heal you? Why aren't you, taking it for the pain relief? And he said to me, which it's kind of funny. I've always thought I understood what animals say. I remember when my kids were little and the dog would bark or the cat would meow, and I'd say, oh, they want you to go open the door, or, oh, they want you to play with them. And a lot of people do that. And I just figured that was how everyone was with their animals. But he was very vocal with me. He basically told me, it's my time, and thank you for trying to help me. But there's so many other people and animals that need this help right now that it's my time to cross. And Colleen had posted about, she wasn't sure. She had scheduled a vet visit and she wasn't sure if she was doing the right thing or not. And I told her, I want to talk to you. Can I come and see you? And she's like, can you just tell me? And I said, no, it's a little more complicated than that. I want to come and see you. And that night, I don't know, some of the things that happened to me blur between, was it in a meditative state? Was it in an intuitive thought? Was it a dream? But he showed me this, what I thought, I'm not a big horse person, a little brown horse. And he said, there are more animals that need to come to Colleen's rescue. And if I'm here, she is not going to take care of these animals. And I have lived more than I ever should have. I wasn't even supposed to live. And she saved my life. And now it is time for me to cross and let her have the opportunity to help other animals in need. So, do you want to jump in with that part with him telling me he wasn't even supposed to have lived, or do you want me to share what we talked about?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So, and at the end of this video, when I get to the end of the video, I'm gonna when I go into editing mode, I'll put up some pictures that I have as Zephyr, so you guys can see this animal. But so when I got him, I wasn't even supposed to get him. He wasn't supposed to live. There were a few events that had happened. We got a shipment of percherons from Canada to save them. So the first reason why he wasn't supposed to live is because these horses are the byproduct of Premarin. And if people don't know what Premarin is, it's a female replacement hormone. Well, they make this hormone out of the urine from a pregnant mare, a pregnant female horse, right? They use a lot of these draft horses because there's a lot of pee. So these horses are confined throughout their pregnancies, and they have like pee collection devices on them. I don't know how to say it nicely, but it's just a terrible life. It's a terrible situation. And then after the mares have the babies, the foals, they are allowed to nurse until they're weaned, and then they're shipped to dog food facilities or China to be eaten, or they're just put down. They're just euthanized. And so we got huge groups of people across the United States, and we were trying to save these. And a lot of these horses were up in Canada. Some of them are in the United States, around Kentucky. But this shipment was coming in from Canada, and I had agreed to buy a filly, which is a young female, the young weanling female horse. And just like either the day she was supposed to be shipped or a day before or so, something like that, she died. And so they contacted me and said, your horse died. And I really wanted a female horse because I wanted to breed these Percheron horses, right? And I didn't want a boy. And I'm like, okay. And so they send me a picture of Zephyr, of Z, this cute little thing standing there all proud with his head up in the air. And they said, well, if you don't take this one, he's not been taken, he's gonna be slaughtered. He's gonna be, oh God. And I'm like, that's okay. I don't want him. I want a female. So I'm sitting there next to my computer at work. They emailed me the picture, and I kept looking at the picture, and I'm like, I can't send this I just can't do it. I can't send this little guy to slaughter. So I call him back, and I'm like, turn him around, because he's on a truck and he's going. And I said, turn him around. I'll pay the gas, whatever. Turn him around and put him with the load coming, and I'll take him. I'm like, okay, I'll just sell him once I get him. I don't want him, but I'll at least save him. I'll save him. Well, 21 years later, here he is. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first little bit of information he had given me that I didn't have any prior knowledge of. I'm not sure you had even ever really told anybody, had you? Or not really?
There was only a couple of people who knew that, and they were not in this area.
Yeah. And so that morning, Colleen on her rescue Facebook page posts this picture of this new, what are we calling him? Shonky, donkey, chonky.
We're calling him a shonky because he's a Shetland pony donkey.
He's
a demon, actually, but
he's small, donkey-ish looking, but horse also looking to me. I mean, I'm not a horse person, so he had the longer, thinner face. And I'm like, that's the animal that Z showed me in my dream. And I told Colleen I need to come out today because she was gonna had an appointment to put him down the next day. And I got out there, and he had given me a couple other little things. So I just told Colleen, you're doing the right thing. He says it's his time. He's refusing to take any of the healing energies that I'm sending. He said that you already saved his life once, and now it's time for you to save the lives of other animals. He had 21 years that he wasn't even, I'm going to get all teary, 21 years that he wasn't even supposed to have had. And seeing the little brown Jimmy, it was like, yeah, that's exactly it. And it's really funny to even think about animals. We characterize them in cartoons and different things like that, but he had a wonderful personality and a sense of humor. And he said, tell Colleen it's okay if she names the rescue Big Z's Rescue. That would be a good thing to do. But he also had shown me an image of him running along a beach with Colleen with longer hair flying. And it was like either sunrise, sunset, it was dusky, and was just showing me little glimpses of all of the amazing things that they'd had in their life. And that was another one that she validated, that yes, it wasn't the ocean. She lived in California, but it was a lake with the shore that they were running on. And I went out, another one of her friends went out, we did some pictures with him, and he just looked at me that day. I looked him in the eyes and I said, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'm sure this is the right thing to do. She needs to do this. She needs to let me go. And there's going to be other animals. In the meantime, Colleen has received another horse that actually was one of Jimmy's co-corral buddies. And it just, I don't know. If people, we talk about, do animals go to heaven? Do animals have a soul? 100%. I believe that she and Zephyr have had other lifetimes together. We've done some ceremonies at her house and different little things that have come up, and he's come. One of our friends that passed this last summer from cancer, she was out there the day that they put him down, and Colleen had to put down another, was it a mule? Is that what Grady was?
He was a donkey.
He was a donkey, and he struggled. He fought being put down, and she said, I'll let her give you all the details on that, but she said they put the needle in, they injected, and he dropped. He was
gone in seconds. And where my other donkey, he fought, he didn't want to go, but he had leukemia and he was no longer making red blood cells. And so he was so weak that the vet was afraid that he would go down in the barn and we couldn't get him out. So we decided to euthanize him, and he fought it. He didn't want to go, but Zephyr was ready. But what blows my mind about this whole thing, not even the fact that Gina was able to communicate with Zephyr, an animal that she's seen, and she's given him cookies and carrots, but she's never, I mean, it's not like you've ridden him. It's not like you were out there brushing him. You never bonded with him that strong, right? It wasn't that kind of thing. He was always just a presence on the farm. Everybody loved Zephyr. I had people come, people I never knew would show up at my house and say, can we go out and see the big horse? I mean, it was crazy, his draw. And I had people since then that I have forgotten that have come to the farm when I posted that Zephyr was, he had crossed the bridge, and they were like, oh my God, I remember giving him carrots. I had a gentleman that came out with one of my friends. They're a couple. He's a Navy chief, and I just love him. And he said, he goes, "This was my highlight of visiting Idaho, and I will never forget that." So he had this draw, and I don't know what it was, but the fact that he understood that he was born to die. Now, we don't attribute that kind of conscious thought to animals. Scientifically, right? Everybody says they live only in the present. Where did that come from? Because I wasn't even thinking that. It's not like Gina picked that up from me. I was too distressed about losing him. I'm going to cry. Where does that come from?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because there's a lot of things that science can't explain and science doesn't fully understand. But
They sure try to, though.
They do. They try to. But the connections that animals and humans, whether they're, and I don't know. I've had rabbits and I've had dogs and I've had cats, and they're all the smaller type of animals. My family, my brother and my father were horse people, but I was mostly thrown off of horses, so they weren't my favorite kind of animal. I mean, I loved them, but it's like, yeah, no, I don't really want to ride this horse.
Yeah, they're pretty, but just leave them over there.
Well, they're really big, and I was on horses from the time I was 1 or 2 years old, and usually ended up on the ground. And after so many times and getting hurt a couple times was like, yeah, I'm gonna pet the horse and feed the horse. And the day that we fed them tortillas was hysterical. I was telling her I had no idea that horses would even eat that, but the depth of his ability to talk to me, feeling his energy and his spirit. And I think I'm sure he came through to me because I could understand him well. I think part of it was also because Colleen is still in the trauma of losing him, and that can hinder our senses a little bit. But he 100% needed her to know that he was okay, that it was the right thing, that he was so grateful for the life that she gave him, that he literally said, I wasn't supposed to live, and she saved my life, and she gave me 21 years that I was never supposed to have, and now she needs to focus on other animals that have a whole lifetime ahead of them.
Yeah, but he brought me the demon. I call him so that chonky, and I'll put up a picture of him. Oh God, he is just.
Well, maybe that was
creature.
to help get your mind off things, because it gives you something else to think about and worry about. Is his little naughty self. I
cry during this episode, and here I am blubbering.
Yeah, but watching Lynn take, because she was very close with him too, and to watch her take him, and they walked off. It was daytime when it happened, but I watched them walking off into another sunset of some sort. And like I said, a couple different ceremonies we've had, he's come through, and Colleen's like, I didn't see him, I didn't feel him. And it's like, oh, he was here. He definitely was here.
Yeah.
And he definitely is still communicating. But that connection, they're not dumb animals. They're very enlightened beings. And I think that as much as she gave him 21 years, he was with her through a lot of her very difficult times in her life. And like some of the sayings are that animals are angels without wings, and I think that they kind of are.
Yep. Yeah, so they know so much more than we give them credit for, and they have a consciousness that science will never understand unless it's a scientific person, such as myself, who can talk with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because he did not, if they're just in the here and now, there is no way he understood that he was headed for slaughter. There's no way he could have understood that he wasn't supposed to be here 21 years later. And he wouldn't understand that I wouldn't keep bringing in other animals because he ate for 3. There was no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no way he could have understood that I could not afford to bring in other animals while I'm feeding him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably what punched me the hardest, was understanding that level of the capacity for knowledge that they have.
And me being a farm person that's raised horses my entire life, I know I'm not a farm person. I'm not a horse person. And that wouldn't have even registered in my mind if he hadn't said that. I just know people have to buy hay, and I mostly know the side of where you're giving him treats and apples and carrots and tortillas and tortilla chips and things like that. I am not really knowledgeable or experienced at all with the whole hay and grain or whatever else that you need.
Right.
But yeah, no, and it was, so being a medium, I've communicated with infants that have passed from SIDS. I've communicated with everybody from one end of the spectrum to the other, and everybody communicates differently, just like humans. Some people are really shy or have a hard time speaking to other people, and then other people are very vocal. And so he communicated, I would say, better than 50% of the people that try to come through with me. They often mostly send me emotion, or they send me an image in my mind. I call it like having a memory that isn't your memory, or watching one of the old reel movies, where you get to see little glimpses and stuff. He, like, literally, it was incredible, the things that he said, and he spoke to me. There's not a different way to describe. It was like you and I talking right now. He talked to me. So, and he's not the only animal that's done that, but the like you said, the memory, the recall of things that he shouldn't have even, that nobody should have even known except for you, and like you said, maybe a handful of people. So I don't know, it was pretty miraculous. And like, I'm 56, and this has happened to me my whole life, the connecting with the other side. And there's still things that blow my mind, still things that I'm surprised that happen. And he definitely is one of them. And I think that it's a really beautiful thing. And I'm glad that we can share this with other people. And animals are like people, and they have a time. And it's really hard, like when there's an accident and your animals may be hit by a car, or something like that happens. But unfortunately, there's not an easy way to die for most of us. And the fact that we can actually save our animals from that pain and that suffering, unlike we can save humans, is quite a blessing. But for him to be able to tell you, no, my mom is doing the right thing, this is what needs to happen, there's other animals that need her. It didn't make it easy. I know that it didn't make it easy, but it made it so you didn't have to sit and question and wonder, did I do the right thing? Because that's so many people. Should I have waited before I put my animal down? Should I have went in sooner? There's no right or wrong answers. You just can only do the best you can do, and you absolutely did that for him.
Tim, being an empath like you are, and you're very sensitive, do you pick up on stuff with animals?
Sometimes. So a connection is a connection. And I had a dog. His name was Thor. And Thor was probably the only animal that I've had that I felt was mine, because, like, we were connected. And from the beginning, like, I didn't even really have to give commands. He'd just do it. And it was pretty cool. I think a lot of times that connections with animals is different than people. And sometimes I wonder how much of that...
As her cat comes up.
Yeah. She's like, were you talking to me? Did you need my input?
Sometimes I wonder if that connection is more of a two-way connection than a one-way. So maybe, I don't know, but maybe Z got that information from you because you had that connection.
Yeah, he could have
Yeah,
checked in.
well, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, psychically?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he overheard me probably talking to a couple of people in Northern California where I had him. I don't, but it wasn't a conversation I had a lot about his
Well, I know that
past, so I don't,
I pick up on feelings. I do that a
yeah.
lot. And I know that my dog Thor did too, like completely. And a lot of times our feelings were in unison. And so with that connection, there's a connection. And whether it be telepathic or they just know or feelings, and it's probably different levels too. Like people have different levels of things. And if you have that connection with a person or an animal or whatever it is, it's there and it's a two-way thing. And so that knowledge, I feel, is kind of known to both parties.
Well, and when you think about the animals that people get that can signal them if their blood sugar gets off, or can signal them if a seizure's coming on, that knows if they need their medications. I mean, if there's not some sort of connection and empathy, how would they know that? How can you train a dog to understand blood pressures rising unless they sense it on some sort of an empathic level? And it's incredible. I don't know. I've seen some videos where like the woman is in the store and she has her animal with her, and the service animal like makes her sit down because she's ready to go into a seizure, and gets her safely to the floor so she doesn't fall over and hit her head or something like that. For them to be able to connect to a person like that, there has to be more than just training, because why wouldn't every animal be able to do that?
Right.
And I mean, like our cats will sometimes come and snuggle us if we're not feeling good, but the depth of the understanding a service animal has with their human is beyond science, beyond training. There's not
And I
any.
think there's a lot about the beginning of things too, like on how strong the connection is. Like with my dog Thor, uh, he was a yellow lab, and his first owner was a hunter, and he wanted a hunting dog, and to be an exact hunting dog. And Thor was not. He was totally Bravo, like totally. Like when I would take a gun out, he would look at it, look at me, and he would get as far away from me as possible. Like he was the exact opposite of a hunting dog. And
Yeah.
so when I went to go look at Thor, he was 6 months old, and he was like, "Help me, please." And so I really liked him, and so I decided to get him. And based on like that beginning, we had like a bond with that. And with that bond, when it starts strong, it seems like that connection builds up a lot. Because animals, they feel things, they know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's it. I have a Labrador too. Well, he's a crossbreed with a Weimaraner and a Rhodesian Ridgeback, most likely. And yeah, he is neurotic and crazy, and he would be probably as good of a hunter as Thor wasn't, you know. And it's funny, but he's my guy. All 90 pounds of his craziness is my guy. And I don't like big dogs. I actually have laid down the law in my house that there will be no more big dogs at my house. And then it was a young couple that I had married, and they had a little girl, and were trying to have some extra money for Christmas. So they had bred their labs and just had these little lab mutts that they were selling just before Christmas. And she had posted how somebody had bought one of the labs and returned it within a couple days. And it was funny. I had just gone to Peru before that and had seen their little gray hairless dogs. I can't think what the name of the breed is. And it's funny, Morty is far from hairless. He is hairful, whatever you want to say. But
Careful.
I adopted him. He was for my son. He ended up being with me. There was that connection. I never would have. And everybody was like, I thought you said no more big dogs. And I'm like, yeah, I did. And here he is. He's gigantic. So
You're right. I sure did.
yes. But I didn't adopt him for me yet. Yet he's mine. So
I know what
this
you mean.
this is Mouse in that picture, isn't it? That was one of the dogs that I
Yep.
had Freaky to. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I'm just going to show a few pictures of Zephyr. This one, Gina, this is a picture you took.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
actually Grady by him, isn't it?
No, that's Eddie.
Oh, is that Eddie?
Yeah, Grady was gray.
Oh, that's right. I just remembered the last time I'd seen him before he passed. He had the little mask thing for the flies and stuff too.
Yeah, for the flies. Yeah. So it's just it's kind of mind-blowing though that our animals are capable of so much more than I think that we. Yeah. So anyway, I think this it was an emotional episode, but I think it might help people to understand that there's a lot more going on in an animal brain than we give them credit for, and they have memories, and they have knowledge that, I don't know, like Tim, the whole concept of maybe Zephyr being able to pull that information out of my brain, ooh, that's a whole level of, I got to think about this with the beer for a moment, because that's
Maybe a shot.
nuts. Yeah, that's nuts, because it makes you then go back and think, people who are mishandling animals and doing terrible things to them, that consciousness is there on the animal's part,
And
and they're understanding it, and that's not good.
And
That's not good.
It's the same energy, and you can't destroy energy.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And the other thing though is it is to me a complete validation that all things have energy and all living things have souls. As people can be as devastated or more sometimes with the loss of a pet than a friend or a family member, especially like a more extended family member. And a lot of people that don't have animals are like, oh my gosh, that's just ridiculous. It was just a dog. And it's like, they're not. And
Right.
to know that they have that intellect and understanding and that soul and that being able to connect. But yeah, you hear stories like the little boy that got lost in the forest and they find his dog and the dog is snuggled around him, protecting him. I mean, the connections and the depth of how people and animals can bond is probably unmeasurable.
And so last week I looked out, when I look out the window over my sink, I can look out on the barnyard and the stable area, and I looked up real quick and I saw Zephyr standing at the gate looking at me. And then I went back, I'm cleaning, like, say I'm washing a coffee cup or something. And it dawned on me, I'm like, oh my God. And I looked up again and he wasn't there. So he's still here.
Oh yeah.
He's still here.
Yeah.
So.
And that was like the night we were outside and doing ceremonies and stuff in the dark. And like I said, he had a sense of humor because he came right up to your deck and you were like, he was where? And I'm like, he was like right here. And he was like, hey, I'm getting to go anywhere I want now. I don't have to stay in that stupid pasture, probably thinking with the electric fence, was like, ha ha, I can do what I want now. Your fence doesn't hold me in anymore. So
that's funny. So it'll be interesting to see how long he hangs out on the other side and shows his image to you and to me. And I remember when I put Earl, which was one of my other bloodhounds, to sleep. He was a big dog. He was twice the size of the bloodhound I have currently. He was almost 140 pounds. And when he would lean on my thigh, you'd move. You shifted your body weight because he would lean. And I remember about a week or so after I put him down, him leaning, and I would reach down instinctively to pet his head, and he wasn't there.
Yeah.
You'd feel the pressure. But that only happened for about a week, maybe 2, and then it stopped. So it'll be interesting. Zephyr's been gone since
September 17th.
17th?
Was
Is that right?
I'm pretty sure it was the 17th.
It's a day
It was
I've
right
walked.
there.
But
yeah.
I wonder how long he'll hang out.
Well, I think that they come and they go. Have you ever had dreams with your other pets? With Earl, or after they've passed, had a dream of?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's them coming and visiting again. His name was Hunter. It should have been Lucky. An orange tabby that he lived his 9 lives and borrowed a few from my other cats because they sure didn't get their 9 lives. And he had really long toenails because he was a 15-pound grumpy orange cat. So nobody was going to cut his nails. And for off and on for a good year, you would hear of his little toenails tapping on the floor. And I would do the same thing.
Oh, the toenails clicking? Yeah.
And there was no kitty. It was just, and I don't know. We do hauntings and all of that kind of stuff too. Is it residual energy? I don't think so. I mean, if it happened every day at the exact same time, yeah. Right. But just randomly when I would sit and you'd hear it on the wood floor, the toenails clicking.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, thanks for joining us with this episode. Sorry I cried all the way through it. I know I would. I told myself I wouldn't. Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think people need to understand that level of communication that's there. It's not just we teach them how to sit or we teach them to come when you whistle or something like that. There's a level of communication that's there, of bonding. So
yeah, and the thing of it is, like Tim was saying with his dog Thor, is animals are like people. And while Labradors were bred to be hunting dogs, not all Labradors want to hunt. And it's just like with people, not all people can join the military and know that they may have to take another person's life. And other people, they thrive on it. It's been in their family. Everybody's done it. So it's like animals are the same way. And we have some that want to listen and be nice. And then we have Jimmy, who is, as Colleen puts, the demon and doesn't necessarily, but I think down deep he understands. But I don't feel an intelligence with him like Zephyr was as close to a human in connecting and talking with me as better than probably 50% of the humans I connect with. Like I said, I usually get an image, a smell, a feeling, that kind of a thing. He carried on intelligent conversation with me.
It's wild. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I appreciate it. And we'll come to you in here in another couple of weeks with another topic that's just as fascinating. We'll sign off for now. Yay. Bye.
Yay. Bye.